All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It is the new year. And as such, what do we have going on? A new year means a new show. So we're going to get into it. This is called The Echo Chamber, and we're going to get down and dirty. This is a show that I am undoubtedly sure that I'm going to lose friends and acquaintances on. We're going to be unapologetically raw and real on this. You will be able to watch what this show is. It's about a 10-minute exposition on the purpose of this show and why we are doing it and why it is so critical. But that is for another time. We want to jump right into it. Tonight's show is about jury duty. Tonight's show is about jury duty. We're going to get into jury duty this evening. We need to have a very important conversation about jury duty. I don't know how many of you have participated in jury duty. I would assume that not many of you have, because all the conversations that I have with folks is I'm trying to get out of jury duty. I ain't got time for that, right? I got better things to do. I don't want to sit in a courtroom. But we're going to talk about why jury duty is so critical for you to do. Now, as you know, we're here in the state of Washington, so this is based on the state of Washington. I'm assuming that it is very similar in other locations. And so if you want to get information on jury duty in the state of Washington, you can go to www.courts.wa.gov and /newsinfo/resources, and that will come up. Okay. And so let's go ahead and go over this. Now, why are we going over jury duty? That could be your first question. So maybe even before I go into it, let's talk about why, right? If you're watching the news, what do we have going on right now? We have the conviction of Jonathan Majors. And what you will realize is in a lot of court cases, Black people are absent on juries. Even more so, Black men are absent on juries. Things might have been different in the Trayvon Martin case if that were not the case. True story. And then in the case of Dana White slapping his wife, what was that, last New Year's Eve? He doesn't even get charged. And so he doesn't have to go through a situation where there is jury duty, right? And so if you are following the case of Jonathan Majors, right, cameras in both instances, and if you were watching mainstream media, you only got a selected amount of information. You just saw the cab footage and then him running from her, which I don't think we've ever seen, at least on camera. I'm sure we have seen it in time immemorial on American soil, but we have not seen it on camera and not in a contemporary setting. And why are we having this conversation? Well, here's the thing. How do you get on to jury duty? Well, this might surprise you. First, your name is selected by random from your voter registration and your driver's license. Okay? Let me say that again. Your name is selected at random from your voter registration and your driver's license, not or, and. Okay, that's a key word there. So if you're not registered to vote, you will never be randomly selected for jury duty, correct? Now, is that not what them folk want you to do? They don't want you to be on jury duty, right? Matter of fact, when those of us that are registered to vote and have a driver's license or identification card, and we do sit for jury duty, oftentimes we are kicked off the jury, right? Because they believe that we are going to have a bias towards someone who looks like us. And so, if the numbers are so low, and if you think about what we were dealing with in this country for decades and still dealing with, right? If you're a convicted felon, you cannot vote. Those laws have been changing over the last decade, but if you got hit with that felony, you're done. You're not voting. So now you have a significant portion of the population, the black population that cannot vote, right? Whether they are currently incarcerated or after they have paid their debt to society and they are out being law-abiding citizens, they cannot vote. Ergo, they cannot serve under jury duty. Well, you have those folks. Well, who else do you have? You have those that are apathetic to the political process, right? Why should I vote? It's not going to work for me. It's an electoral college. So either I'm in a red state and I want to vote blue, or I'm in a blue state and I want to vote red. So my vote doesn't count, right? One of the big tricks, they say the biggest trick is the devil didn't exist. The other one is you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book, right? There's a whole lot of pejoratives, that sayings that folks have for us. Another one is, no, don't vote, right? You also have folks that say, hey, you know what? Neither side deserve our vote. And you know what? I can agree with you. Biden doesn't deserve our vote. Trump doesn't deserve our vote. Neither side is doing anything for us. That said, the piece that is left out is you still need to be a registered voter, because if you're not registered to vote, you will never be called for jury duty. So even sometimes when those of us are advocating for our community and saying, hey, both sides aren't doing anything for us, and until they're willing to give us some tangibles, don't vote for either side, many of us take that as, then there's no point in even registering to vote. So then that's another chunk of our population that does not vote, right? And then there's yet another chunk of folks. And I'll get to this one and I'll show you the numbers as we get down there. The other one is, hey, how you doing? The other one is jury duty doesn't pay. So if you're making 15, 18, 19, 20, $40 an hour, it doesn't matter what you're making, right? All of our dollars right now are hard to come by. And so to get $5, $10 a day, $50 or $10 an hour, $50 a day, whatever it may be, you're like, hey, I can't afford to lose a week of work, 2 weeks of work, and do this jury duty. And what I submit to you is that's exactly what they want you to believe, right? And while it doesn't affect you directly in that moment, to say, hey, you know what? I can't afford to lose this $1,500 or this $2,000. Indirectly, it affects your uncle, your nephew, your father, your grandfather, your auntie, your sister, your mother. Because you refusing to do your civic duty and serve on the jury, you can't be one of the 6 or the 10 or however, whatever that number is. And I know many of you are hearing this for the first time, and it's unfortunate because of all the social justice circles that I've been in, no one has ever discussed this. Never heard it before, right? And so year after year, case after case, what do we have? It's the same thing. Yes, it should be taught in school. It's the same thing that we get, right? When we go and apply for jobs. Well, you know, we're looking for the best qualified person and there just aren't any qualified people. We looked and they weren't there. Well, they're not there because we don't know to be there, right? They don't tell you that piece. Now, the information is right there on the website, of course. But what would make you go to the website and put together that, hey, If I'm not a registered voter, I'll never be called for jury duty. And we're looking at it as, hey, man, if I don't get that jury summons, whew, cool, because I don't want to miss work. What I'm here to tell you is so much bigger, so much larger than that. You need to start serving on juries immediately. The more, the better, because they're still going to try to cancel you out when they see you there. Power is taken, it is not given. But you can't take any power if you're not even willing to play. So let's get into this really quickly. Like I said, the first one here, how was I chosen for jury duty? First, your name is selected from the random voter registration and driver's license and identity card, your identification, basically. Then your answers to the juror questionnaire were evaluated to make sure you were eligible for service. Who's eligible for jury duty? To be eligible for jury duty, you must be at least 18 years of age, a citizen of the United States, and a resident of the county in which you are able to serve as juror. And you must be able to communicate in English. Who is eligible for jury duty? If you've ever been convicted of a felony, you must have had your civil rights restored. Okay. So many of you that are listening to me know that I work in the nonprofit world. And so, you can reach out to me. You probably already know a whole bunch of people that can help you to restore your rights. Shout out to Deborah Jackson from Surviving Change. Shout out to Civil Survival. There's a lot of agencies out there that do that kind of work if you want some help on that. Do you have to respond to the jury summons? Well, according to the RCW 2.36.170, that states a person summoned for jury duty who intentionally fails to appear as directed shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. Please respond to your summons, right? They take it seriously. And understand there are people that actually love to serve on juries, right? Their name gets called and they'll go and they'll go and they go, right? And while they'll say, hey, well, you know what? Are you going to have a bias if you serve on a jury? Well, your lived experience is your bias, right? Just as their lived experience is their bias. And so you're taking in the facts as you see it and you're trying to make an impartial decision, right? But what do you have? You have a group of folks that are constantly called on, right, to do jury duty against Black men and Black women, Black boys and Black girls. You getting what I'm saying? How much do jurors get paid? Again, according to the RCW 2.36.150, specifies that jurors may receive up to $25, but in no case less than $10 for each day's attendance. Most Washington state counties pay $10 a day. Again, and jurors are also eligible for mileage reimbursement. That's nothing, right? If you're making $15 an hour, $20 an hour, you're like, I don't know what you want me to do with $10 a day. I get it. But you have to look at it. I implore you to look at it in a different lens. This is so much bigger than you losing out on a week or 2 weeks of your pay, right? And again, while you may not be sitting on a jury for a family member or a friend, later on, someone is going to be sitting on that jury for someone that you love. And so if we're not there, then we're just rolling the die. And we know that in this country, it is still disproportionately that we find ourselves pulled over and incarcerated, higher sentences than any other group. Okay? Even when we're dropping in percentage of population, right? Because the Hispanic population is overtaking us as you see what I'm saying? What is the role of the juror? Your job as a juror is to listen to all the evidence presented at the trial. Then decide the facts, decide what really happened. The judge's job is to decide the law, make decisions on the legal issues that come up during the trial. So again, when you're looking at Jonathan Majors, and for those of you that watched all the video, not just the him trying to push her back into the cab or him being chased by her for what seemed like a half a mile, right? Supposedly she had a fractured finger and she had a pretty nasty cut behind her ear. But many of you didn't see all the other videos of her in the nightclub and her outside the building. They had beautiful, clear footage. There's no blood dripping down onto her beautiful white sweater. And so those things weren't taken into account. And then even the charge are charges I've never heard of. And you know it's something when they really want to get you, when all of a sudden they can find the most obscure charges to charge someone with. Now, I don't care what you think about Trump. You could be for or against. I personally don't think it's a good idea to disqualify him in that way. However, it doesn't matter what side you're on. The bottom line is the law is on the books. When they really, really, really want you, they will find that obscure law. They will hit a rapper with the RICO. But we don't have to have a fentanyl problem in this country, right? We could RICO the hell out of the truck drivers and the other dealers and everything else. We want this problem here. All right, I digress, because that's not what this is about. This is about jury duty. Again, jury duty is critical, okay? You can go to courts.wa.gov for more information. Again, you must be a registered voter and you must have a driver's license or ID. You have to have both, okay? If you're not there to serve on a jury, you can't give your judgment based on your perspective, and you're going to go back and you're going to deliberate with the other jury members. And that's when you have that conversation, right? And so for many of us in the Black community, if you're watching social media and having conversations in your circles, sometimes they're divided on racial lines, sometimes they're not. But for many in the Black community, we feel like Jonathan Majors was railroaded. And while this has destroyed his career, right? He's gone to college, has a master's degree. He's worked hard for this. Should not have his livelihood destroyed off of something so stupid, something that he clearly isn't guilty of. We say, well, but a jury of his peers found him guilty. The question is, were they a jury of his peers? All right, y'all. This is the Echo Chamber. I'm Marwan Cameron. We'll see you next